Hello, hello.
Hi.
I think it's only David at the moment. How are you, man?
Hi, David. Let's have a chat.
All right. Let's get into this. People will come in, but it's a small channel, which is good. No pressure. So, the topic that we came up with today was closed-minded people, and it's really around us coming across people where, for me, I remember saying, you talk to someone who's really intelligent on all topics, but then when you touch on something that they're very personal on, whether it's their children or religion or whatever it might be, something very personal, when you take away intellect or academic conversation or politics or anything, like it's really important to them in their personal lives, then all of a sudden they almost switch personalities. They're no longer objective. They just can't listen to or believe anything you say, even if you're being logical. But you have had a slightly different sort of position on this.
Yeah, I do think regarding his question, I think that might actually be a good place to start.
David actually wrote an interesting one, because let's get the browser up here. I asked, just quickly, I should have posted it last night, but I posted it just before the stream. I said, well, what's an example of closed-mindedness that bugs you? And so far, and feel free to give me your responses, give us your responses during the stream. But David had an actual interesting one. You can read it out, babe.
When someone turns it around on me and says, "You're just not open-minded enough," I can see their side of things and I understand their points. I simply disagree and they refuse to let it go. Does that make me close-minded or them? Perhaps both. Yeah, so what I think here is you are actually being open-minded, because I think it's about understanding the person, understanding that people have different perspectives. And if you understand it, then that to me says that you're kind of open-minded. Like you can see someone else's perspective. I think what I more so don't really understand sometimes is that people, they really can't understand someone else's perspective and they refuse to acknowledge it even.
I think it's the refusal. People just don't want to accept something. So you might not like something, and I get it a bit, and I hear it a bit in my life, where you explain something logically to them about what you believe or what you do and don't want to do, or what you heard happen, and they're going, I just can't understand how that happens, or I can't understand how they think that way. And he's like, what? And I'm thinking, what do you mean you can't understand? Like, take yourself out like a third person observing a situation. You go, oh yeah, if I was in their shoes, I get why they act that way. I accept. But I think a lot of people don't accept. They don't want to. And then they almost try and shame or gaslight you and say you're wrong by saying, well, that's just stupid and that doesn't make any sense. It's like, how logically do you want me to explain it to you? You're effectively, when you say, I don't get it, that's just, I don't understand, they're really saying, I don't want to accept what you're saying because I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of stubbornness. And also, I think people don't really realize that that's what they're doing sometimes. And that they actually, because everyone's guilty of this, like I've been guilty of this as well sometimes, when I'm too stubborn and I'm like, no, this is what I think and this is what should happen.
We had this this week.
Yeah.
You want to talk about what that was about?
Well, that was about religion. And I mean, that's a whole other topic, I guess, but...
Because I've always been very sympathetic to religion, even though I'm not like a religious person, but you're very against organized religion, but yours is more coming from, don't give me rules and tell me what to do, kind of, you come from that position mostly. And you don't like a lot of, again, you try and talk open-mindedly to them, and a lot of extremist people say, who might be religious, they kind of like, no, they're the rules. And you're like, but hang on, like, but isn't this reasonable? Like outside of your rules, can we just talk like reasonable people? And they're always talking from their rule book. They're not talking from themselves.
Yeah, I'm not against it or anything, but I think, yeah, that is a whole other topic. But the problem that I have with it is that it's not tangible. And that's what I have always struggled with. Because I think that religion with its rules and everything, that can be good for society and for people. And I understand how that would make a society more safe and why people would need it. It's just the aspect of like no one knows if it's actually real that I have always struggled with. So
I noticed, but you kind of saw it from a different perspective the other day.
Yeah.
Because you realize that in you resisting, say, whether it's people who are really pushy on their religion or their view of kids or marriage or children or whatever, you oppose them with the same force. You're being as...
Yeah, I think what I realized is people who follow a religion, sometimes they're very rigid in their beliefs. And then because I maybe have different opinions, then obviously that's kind of going to form a battle against each other. But I guess what I realized yesterday is if I were religious, then I would be the same way, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially me, because I value loyalty very much. So that if I were religious, I would probably be acting the same way as they act.
You've got a very strict moral code with you, which is really great, which is why I can trust you in a lot of the important things in life. But it's like you're almost stubbornly rigid in a lot of great areas to do with like a couple, right? But also that same black and white stubbornness is also when someone's telling you what to do, they're being stubborn in their own way, and you fight them with the same kind of mode.
Yeah, and that's how it circles back to what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes people, they don't really realize they're kind of just being stubborn, just like I was being stubborn. But we had a little bit of a breakthrough where I realized, but if I were religious, I would probably be the same way, because you're going to be loyal to that religion and those rules, you know? So that's like, oh yeah, then you can see it from their perspective. Yeah. So everyone is a little bit close-minded sometimes, I guess.
Yeah. I think a big thing happens, the big help happens if you're not as strict and harsh in the conversation, because I think it's natural if someone's coming at you and really trying to almost debate you to win, then your defenses come up and you push back. And so you get rigid to defend their rigid kind of debating to you. But if someone's like, if a religious person were to ask you, like, talk about religion, why don't you believe it, or why don't we want to have kids, and you can tell they're more open, they're not attacking you, they're not pushing, then you're relaxed, you know? So I think you kind of, you do like for like. And so when you hear someone, you're so used to hearing a certain way of speaking about religion or kids or marriage or all these big opinions in society, you automatically get ready to take your sword out and defend yourself. But I think if a person comes to you and they're reasonable, you'll be more likely to kind of talk reasonably back to them. But I think your automatic reaction is to defend yourself, because most people are very stubborn and attacking with their opinions. And they want to tell you what to do. They don't actually want to talk with you and like, oh, I really believe in this. I believe in God, or I really love kids and I want kids. And you're like, oh, I've never wanted kids. And then they go, what? Really? And they kind of like really start attacking you, and they look at you like you've got two heads. And it's like, hang on, I thought we were having a nice conversation. You think this, I think this. Then all of a sudden they're dominating you with like, why don't you want kids? And that's something that another reason I wanted to have this chat was the other day I was listening to a podcast, and the person is always, it was a philosophical podcast and talk about ethics and morals and things like that. And then someone called in and talked about, say, a video we made recently, which was this one here. We reacted to not wanting kids. Should we feel guilty for not wanting kids? and we reacted to a video. And I was listening to this podcast, and this otherwise intelligent person, I love listening to him. The caller called in and said, "Have you heard of dinks? Dual income, no kids, and people who just want to be together, married, but they don't have no interest in children." And his personality almost switched, and he got annoyed. And he started talking about, well, your ancestors got you here, and it's an insult to your ancestors that you don't reproduce, and you should want to have children. And it was like, whoa. And he started, it was all shaming. Before it was all philosophy and logic, and 1 + 1 = 2. Or you think this, I think this. Because philosophically, things need to make sense and be balanced, right? All of a sudden, it was just one-sided. And I was like, how does an otherwise intelligent person, when it gets onto something, it's almost like I'm saying, your daughter or son is terrible and you're a fool, and they're attacking me back as though I insulted them. That's what I don't get. I haven't attacked you or insulted you. I've got an opinion, and then you attack me with your very personal biases.
Yeah, but I guess when people have beliefs, they can be very strong beliefs, and they will defend them. Yeah.
I guess I really don't respect when someone, with their words, they come at it passionately, but it's very, very personal, that it's almost kind of like insulting and pushy. It's like, no matter what beliefs I have, I'm not going to, I think I've got tact enough to know when I'm being pushy on somebody.
Yeah, that is something else, though. If you go for other people, like if you attack, like I don't do that, but I do sometimes get triggered and then defend myself. But if you attack, yeah, I agree that that's probably not good. Although, I had a little bit of an epiphany yesterday. Remember? Yesterday I was thinking, because obviously we were planning this video, and we were also thinking, oh, do you want me to?
I'll grab it, babe.
One of your 100 drinks over here.
Yeah, give me the other one as well.
This one?
No, no, the first one, you're right. Give me that one. What were you saying?
Yeah, so when we were preparing this video and or this stream, and I was also thinking back about the video that we made about dinks, and then I was thinking, like, why? Because that's the only topic I feel like that really triggers me. Like kids, people shaming you for not wanting kids and that kind of stuff.
I think it's the shaming and people pushing it on you and judging you for it more than actually the topic itself.
Yeah, but yesterday, so I was thinking, like, why does this trigger me so much? But then also, why do I let this trigger me so much? You know? Because you could get triggered by something, but you could also not get triggered by something. Like, it's a choice. Because remember I was saying yesterday, like, it doesn't really matter at all. Like, I don't know these people. Everyone has different opinions. Why does it matter? Their opinions are not going to have any effect on my life. I can still live my life the way I want to live my life. Why am I letting this trigger me? And then I was thinking, today, I actually want to try to just have a more relaxed approach. Just try to be a bit more objective, because it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
But sometimes it's your natural defense, survival mode coming in.
Oh, I will probably get a little bit triggered.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. This will be entertaining.
No, but what I was saying is, like, it's a natural survival defense if you feel like you're being attacked, to defend yourself. So I think that's where it comes from. But say, for instance, I don't think it's necessarily the topic. There are topics that you're naturally curious about and you're interested in, right? You're not interested in children, and I think it's that everyone else is so interested in children and they push it on you. And it's kind of like it's very uncomfortable, because they won't let you be comfortable until you agree with them. And that pushiness makes you uncomfortable, then you have to stand up and defend yourself. So it's not necessarily the topic of kids, because if another person talked to you reasonably, like, do you have kids? No, never wanted kids. Oh, well, it's not for everyone. And then you go on, and then it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it isn't necessarily the topic. It is the shaming and the degrading that I have a problem with. And the fact that it kind of attacks my freedom. That's why I defend myself, I feel like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So from my point of view, I wanted to talk about this because time and time again, and you as well, you listen to some podcasts from more conservative people that they talk about, basically like you watch the opposite of woke stuff, right? And a lot of them, you've told me as well, like they're so intelligent, but when they get onto family and kids, they're just so closed-minded. They're like a sect. One moment they're very reasonable and they believe what they believe, but then when they get into something, and I mentioned to you, Jordan Peterson is a good example. He doesn't do that really, or he tries his best not to. He has his moments. He's a human being, right? But he does his best to realize that when he's being a bit too biased, and maybe because he's a psychologist as well. But most other people on the conservative side online, whatever topic they talk about, whether it's politics, religion, and family and relationships and whatever, they get very personal defending it. And for me, it's very strange. I don't know if some of them think well, if my wife or husband or child heard me saying this, I couldn't live with myself, or I need to be the person that's the husband or the wife. I need to talk that way now because they're so, it means so much to them, which I get. But it's can't you just drop your own wife or kids and say, yeah, this is what I believe, but let's talk about the topic itself.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't.
But I think the problem with some of those intelligent YouTubers, I guess, and I guess we're talking about people from the Daily Wire, because I watch, for example, Candace Owens a lot. It's just kind of weird to see how, because I understand where they're coming from, because they're very religious and they have these certain beliefs, but then sometimes they just kind of dismiss a whole group of people, and that's just kind of weird to me.
Well, your belief, people's beliefs, their values, but especially their beliefs, if they're in a group, it forms their identity. And if they're flexible and go, okay, I won't be attached to my identity as much, they feel lost and they feel threatened. And so they have to defend their identity. And if their identity is their religion, their sect, their whatever, I see it with groups of guys in male spaces online, that it's the only group, it becomes their identity, their talking point, their Bible, their 10 Commandments. And you can't question any of them. It's the same. It's this group mentality. It's the mentality of an idea within a group you belong to. So people who are married, they're in this group called marriage and husband and wife and matrimony, you've got kids or whatever. If you're in a religion, you're in a group of people and this is what it is. And so anyone who belongs in this really secure, comfortable group that, has a lot of security, it's their foundation for why they live and what they do, why they go to work, and it makes sense of life. If they can't be flexible or take themselves out of it, and then they defend it all the time, it's hard for people to...
Yeah, but it does make sense, I'm thinking now. Because if you're really good at something, or you believe in something, and you are that thing, then it's very easy to just be that thing and dismiss other things.
Yeah. You grab it with both hands.
Yeah, but it's also... For example, I value loyalty a lot. I would never cheat, for example, right? And it's easy for me now to say, oh, that's so bad. I would never do that. I'm proud of that loyalty aspect. Mm-hmm. But for someone who cheated once, that's very different. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I can imagine that if I were very religious, then I would kind of talk like that maybe sometimes. If I believed, if I always wanted kids, then I can kind of understand...
say,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, say you were really maternal. You wanted children in a different life, right? But you were you. And you really, like most women, they're maternal and they just want kids and everything. So just having an intellectual discussion, not about you. Let's just talk about kids and not having kids. You are always going to sway towards how great kids are, they're beautiful world, we're here because of like reproduction, family, survival of the species, religion, like it's all, there's just so much drawing to you to defending kids, you know? So it's very hard for a person to stay interested in a view you don't care about.
Yeah, but I feel like it's also more difficult for them to be objective.
That's what
Because, yeah, because for us it's easier for some reason. Because we're not like engrossed in this, in these like categories.
Look, we're attached to this group of you and I being married, a husband and wife, right? But I can still objectively talk to anyone about going monk or being single and why it's hard dating out there. And I can objectively listen to someone who's reasonable and going, you're right. Yep, you're right. Like, and I can get into that really interesting conversation and have a really nice discussion about it because it's not about me.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, we can see it from other people's points of view. Like, we can understand why people would be religious even though we're not. Or why people would want kids even though we don't want kids. Why people would want to get married. Like, I know that we got married, but it might as well not have been the case. You know, if you hadn't met me, then you probably wouldn't be married. I don't know if I would have been married if I hadn't met you. But the point I'm making is we can still see it from other people's perspective, but they seem to not really be able to see it from other people's perspective.
Would you say that naturally you find it harder to look at another person's point of view on a topic that you really care about in a certain way because you're a woman and I'm a man? Do you think like you automatically become biased? You place yourself in that situation. You automatically are biased because you're a woman. You place yourself into that situation.
Maybe sometimes, I don't know. Depends on the topic, but I know that has happened.
Yeah. But there are topics. Again, I think we all have an easier time entertaining a different idea, a big different idea, if it's got nothing to do with our lives and the choices we make. So kids, no kids. Like if you're a human being, you have to make a choice or have an opinion for or against. Kids, married, single, with someone. Religious, not, you know what I mean? If you live amongst people in society, if you're going to be with other people, you have to kind of pick a side. But there's other things, like for instance, an interest in watching serial killers. People go, oh, that's bad. But it's not really anything that you deal with in your life. They're kind of like interesting fictional ideas. Yes, they're out there, but they're not common everyday things that people have to choose a side, you know? But when you have to choose a side in life, like single, with someone, trying to find someone, comfortable being alone and never caring. Wanting kids, no interest, don't care about kids. You know, all these, like you as you go through life as a human being, you kind of have to pick a side. You can kind of be in the middle and like move one way or another, depending. Unlike other things you can intellectually just entertain a weird idea or a very big idea because just intellectual, it doesn't really touch your life. It's really these human things where you have to pick a side with groups of people and they attack you if you don't think about them. So I think that's where it really bugs you and me when people...
I've never felt like I had to pick a side though. Like I've never had pressure about any of this, so that's good.
But you picked a side within yourself. You pick your own values and your ethics and your morals.
Yeah, but I pick a side. That's just what I want. But I don't pick a side because of outside pressure.
No, but you pick morals and ethics, say, rules to which you adhere, how you want to be as a person, right? And then naturally you'll come across people as like, oh, I'm kind of like you or I'm not like you. So people pick their values and ethics and then by default they pick a side. Some people pick a side because they want to belong to the group, right? But you pick a side in and of yourself, and then you're on the side of certain people and you're against other people by default.
Yeah, I feel like I'm focusing on the semantics a lot, and the word pick feels...
You're very literal.
Yeah, I would say I have certain morals, and I want certain things, and I don't want certain things.
You're on one side of the fence, okay? There's a fence here, and there's marriage, not marriage. Kids, no kids. Religious, not religious. So just think of it that way. There's this fence between your kind of person generally, and then there's the other kind. There's like left and right. Conservative.
Yeah, but some of it also isn't black and white.
No, but just think of it that way. I'm not so you picked your morals and ethics. You've taken a stance on the important things that you believe, and then you run up against these people who are closed-minded. And that's where the problem is. So let's go through.
Yeah.
You wrote some points down, which I thought were interesting about coming across people who are closed-minded or who are intelligent, and then you touch on a topic where it's very personal, and then they become a completely different person.
Yeah. Okay, so I looked up some statements that we could respond to, and I basically have 4 categories. So the first, shall I also say the categories or not?
No, we'll go down one by one.
Okay. So the first statement is, why don't you want kids? I just can't understand.
Oh, when they say that to you?
Yeah.
So when they ask you, Stephanie, do you have kids? No. Oh, really? And you say, no, I've never wanted kids. And they don't let it go. I don't understand. And they keep.
Yeah, but you know what I do have to say? That those things never really happen to me often. I can count them on one hand. You know, the latest one was when we were at like a family function, and there was this older woman who asked us. She kept pressing us about that. Remember?
That was a while ago, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vaguely, yeah.
But that was an older woman, and she asked me why I don't want kids. And I was just like, yeah, I just don't want them. And I didn't even know what else to say. She just kept asking me. And I just kept saying, I just don't want them.
Yeah, I think it's with people that if you grow up and you're around varied people, or you've lived at a few places, but if you've lived in this kind of bubble, whether it's religious or a community where you've never experienced other kinds of people, and then they come across someone like you, it's odd.
But you know what I think is happening? I think sometimes just because people are used to having certain beliefs and they're used to being stubborn about something, that keeps them from actually thinking about the statement. It keeps them from actually trying to be objective and looking at it from someone else's perspective. I think that's what's happening. Because if I can imagine why someone would want to have kids, you know, if I think about that, yeah, I can imagine. Like, they bring joy to your life in all kinds of different ways, blah, blah, blah. I can kind of imagine that. But when someone says, I don't understand why you don't want kids, that kind of says to me that you're not even really thinking about the scenario of someone not wanting kids. Because even if you have kids and you love your kids, you know that there are certain downsides to having kids. Like, it's not all easy and fun all the time, right? So those could be reasons why someone wouldn't want to have kids. So if you actually think about it, everyone can kind of imagine why someone wouldn't want to have kids, but they don't get to that point because their beliefs are so strong and they're, you know, like, they're so passionate about it. I think that's what's going on.
And they're also probably refusing to listen to you. They're waiting for words that confirm what they want to hear. Like, if you just keep saying, in effect, no, 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 I don't want kids, I don't like, I'm not interested, they can't accept no. They want some kind of yes, or to validate their beliefs.
Yeah, but I think if you actually go into a serious conversation with them, you know, and you say, for example, well, you know, if you have kids, you're going to have a lot less time for yourself, right? And they're like, well, yeah, of course, because you have kids and you have to take care of the kids. And then you could be like, yeah, okay, but you know how for some people, that could be a really good reason not to want to have kids because they want to have more time for themselves, blah, blah, blah. So if you actually have a conversation about it, you could actually let that person let their guard down a bit to open up, to actually think about someone else's perspective. But that whole process, you have to go through those steps.
But it can be tiring It's
I
kind of
know,
like
but,
talking
yeah.
to a child, or like sometimes what used to annoy me is when I talk to women about logical things in life, and I have to reframe the argument and make an analogy that they would understand just to see the fairness of what I'm saying.
Yeah, although I think, because you call it childish, but I think it's more stubbornness than what you're used to
Well,
believing.
stubborn child, yeah.
Yeah, but like just the example of yesterday with me and religion, right? Like that took some, like, you had to really, like, how do you say that? Break through that brick wall to get somewhere with me, and now like there's a little crack in the wall, and I can kind of, oh yeah, I can kind of see it from a different perspective. Sometimes it takes time, and you really have to, talk about it, talk through it with someone.
I red pilled you. Yeah, but like I remember once having this debate, and it was like really annoying. I was just trying to describe the logic of women taking maternity leave, and
Oh yeah.
and they're paid. Like, yeah, what's wrong with that? It's like, well, you're not at work. You're being paid for a year, and you're not at work, and your job is being kept open. And not to mention the person, because I used to temp as a designer, and I temped a few times for women on maternity leave, a couple of different agencies. And very common, I'd say like at 8 out of 10 of the times, the woman who took maternity leave never came back, or went part-time, or hardly worked, or left the company or something. And a lot of times they offered me a full-time position if I wanted it. But I go there temporarily, but I wanted to stay temp. You train someone up, I get to know the company, and then even if I'm good, they have to let me go because they're promised to hold a position for this person that's not working. And I try and explain this to some women, like that maternity leave, you don't realize how much of a privilege it is for businesses. Businesses just want to make money. It's not about personal. And they're like, yeah, but children, and that's cruel, but what about society? And if we all just don't care, then society will crumble, because we need to also consider women have children. It's like, yeah, we consider you from day to day and week to week. If someone passes away, you have some time off, but you come back to work. Your job doesn't suffer. You pause your job for a very short amount of time, you come back. But for a year, and then after a year here in Australia, they hold your job for 2 years. For 2 years, actually. First year, you get paid full. Second year, I don't know if you get paid or you get paid a smaller amount. And they say, what's wrong with that? And they keep looking at me like I'm a misogynist and I'm cruel and I'm sexist or something. And I go, no, it just doesn't make financial sense for a company that employs you to do a job and you're not there for the job for 2 years. And I said another thing that bugged me was that I'm working for these companies. On my resume, if I work for a company for 5 years, right? I've actually worked there for 5 years. But if you've worked for a company as a woman for 5 years and you've had 2 kids, you've only actually worked there for 1 year. But on your resume, it's like, I've been at this corporation for 5 years as a designer. It's like, no, you haven't. You've been there for 1 year. I've been there for 5 years because I didn't take time off for kids. Or if I did, it was a few weeks when they're, I hand out the cigars and I'm happy and blah-de-blah. So, and I couldn't, they go, oh, well, you're being ridiculous. And I had to paint an analogy. Sorry, I'm going on a rant like this because this is one thing that used to bug me a lot. And there's like, you're just being sexist. Of course, women, what, you don't want women to work. It's like, no, it's not that I don't want them to work. It's not fair on companies. And you're given such a concession, but you think you're equal to men in the workplace. That's why you'll never be equal. You can't work as much. And if you want to have kids, forget it. You're nowhere near equal or capable. And I said, look, let me try and paint a picture to get you to understand. Imagine you met a guy and he says, yeah, we'll get married, but for 1 or 2 years, I'm going to leave. I'm not telling you when I'm going to come back, if I'm going to come back, but you can't get married. You have to keep my position open. You have to wait for me. And I'll let you know in 1 or 2 years. And they're like, like, can you see how stupid it is? Why do I have to paint a Cinderella picture for you for the 5-year-old schoolgirl to understand this adult concept? Why am I getting so pissed off?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think that's maybe a little bit different from...
But it is kind of closed-minded. Like, you just try and explain a simple concept. Nothing personal. It's like money. Like, you're not there, but you're getting paid. and you want the work to unfairly help you with your private life, and like it's and a person can't see another point of view except I want kids, I love my baby,
Yeah.
you hate my baby, you hate it's like no.
Yeah, I guess that's just the same kind of example.
Yeah.
Isn't it true that employers can't ask women if they want to have kids?
No, and they also on the resume, if you're hiring a woman, you can't sort of say, okay, you said you have 5 years experience, did you take any time off for children? And a woman will be offended and can sue the company saying, I don't see why my personal life is your experience. And you should be able to say, well, I want to know is you actually have been in the workplace for 5 years.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the case in Holland, because I remember my last employer asked me that. When I said to him, like, I wanted to talk to him about something. And he asked me, oh, you're not pregnant, are you? And I just laughed. I laughed and I was like, no, I don't want kids. Don't worry about that. And we kind of laughed. So,
well, I think in Holland, you guys are still a bit more direct. All of the politically correct woke stuff is kind of bleeding out into Europe really quickly, especially in places like Germany and France, but Germany especially. And you guys aren't very far from that, so you're not immune to it. But that's a very logical question. But also, I think employees need to be able to articulate why. It's like, it's nothing personal. I just want to understand how much you've been working, how much experience you have. And if we're going to hire you, all right, I'm
this
getting
is
off topic.
Yeah,
I
though,
know.
But
I know.
Yeah, I'm just gently bringing you back to the
I know.
topic.
I go off-road a lot.
I know, babe.
I'm a
That's why I
four-wheel
love
drive.
Okay, next one. Why don't you want to get married?
Another
I've never had
argument.
that question, though, because you, before me, didn't necessarily want to get married.
Guys get that
But-
question more than women.
But I've never had that. I was never like, I want to get married or I don't want to get married. I was just always like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like-
but you know the reason for that. Why generally women don't really get that question and guys do. The question of why don't you want to get married?
Why do you think?
Because you wait around for guys to ask you. We have to ask. It's like, why aren't you doing it? Why you're just going to sit around? What are you going to do with your life? Why aren't you dating? Why aren't you with someone? Why aren't you asking someone to get married? And women are kind of like waiting around. Like you don't do the asking.
Yeah, but I mean, if I had been like very adamant about not wanting to get married, then I would have probably gotten that question too. But I've just always, my mindset was always like,
That's you. Then.
that's true.
Again,
But I was always like, well, if I meet someone I want to marry, then I'll get married. But I was never like, it's my goal to get married or I don't want to get married.
Again, that's you. It's more maybe Dutch culture, direct, whatever. But generally, women, they sit around waiting for this.
Now, I
stuff
wouldn't. If I wanted to get married from a young age, then I would like go for it. I would be dating and like intentionally and getting married, especially if I always also wanted kids.
But that's the reason why men really get looked at weirdly. Like, you don't want to get married? You don't want kids? Why are you so, like, it's a very different way of asking that question. But it's almost inappropriate to ask women, like, why don't you have kids? It's almost rude. And marriage is a lesser inappropriate question. But for guys, like, yeah, with guys, there's no inappropriate. Like, why don't you want kids? Did someone hurt you? Shame, 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 shame. But we kind of avoid shaming women generally, especially in the West. But I like the Dutch way much better.
But that makes sense that it's different for women and that people don't ask them, oh, why aren't you married? Probably because of feminism as well. You know, maybe.
Yeah, but not directly. But I think everyone's very protective over women and they don't want to make you frown or cry in general, especially if you don't know them. Next common...
Oh, this one. Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Next common closed-minded comment that people often give.
What's the point of getting married if you don't want kids? I remember we saw that one in the chat somewhere, in the comments
That's
somewhere.
a very common one, like, because marriage was designed to, religiously designed through in history to have kids for the people to stay together. So it is a social religious construct. It is. And it's like, well, you get married to have kids. That was the whole point of making you stick together under holy matrimony, and then, well, you're going to have kids now. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm going to have to get pregnant, babe. I mean, because we have to have kids now. And we're married. No, I'm kidding.
Well, then we're not.
Yeah. To me, this is such a weird one because it's just so logical that I understand that marriage and kids, they used to go together decades ago, or I don't know how long ago. But like they're separate and on their own at the same time. You can just get married and not have kids. You could have kids and not get married. Like they're also two separate things on their own. Yeah. They don't have to be together, you know. So what's the point of getting married? Well, you get married for love, not necessarily to have kids.
Well, you and I just want love and companionship. But other people who are when you've got a whole group, a huge group of people behind you, it's very easy to be arrogant with your point of view. If you're very religious, you've got like Christianity behind you, right? It's very arrogant to be tactless and very rude towards people like you and me who are trying to live very different individual kind of lives, right? We're not going off script. We really don't belong to any group. We're not part of you, but we can talk with you as long as you're... So I think when people have a big group behind them, a lot of their egos come into it and they can be very rude and pushy and they go over the line and they feel like, what? I'm just asking. It's like, no, you're being rude. Like, pare it back a bit. Stop being pushy. Like, I can be rude too, you know. Like, we all know not to be pushy and rude to overweight people face to their face, right? But for some people, especially if they have a religion behind them or they've got a very orthodox view of life and relationships, they get pushy and it's like, yeah, I can be rude to you too. Do you want me to be rude? Like, or are we going to be civilized now and like respect each other and not be so condescending? So I think people that belong in groups.
Yeah, but this question is also very insulting.
It's kind of very, it shows how narrow-minded, like you really don't understand why I would want to be with this person, to marry a person and not want to have kids. Like I want to have everything else that comes with marriage except for kids. Imagine kids and marriage, take out the kids. That's what I want. Can you imagine that? No.
Yeah, but this question is also really dumb. Because if you have a gun to your head, right? And one of these people has to...
Thanks for saying... You just said a word that's probably going to get the...
Oh, okay. Well, if you've got that to your head, right? And you have to answer this question, what's the point of getting married if you don't want kids? Everyone is going to come up with, well, yeah, because of love. Like, everyone's going to come up with that answer. So it's also a really dumb question.
But they'll say that love is a modern construct, and it is. Love is actually a very... And I've talked to you about this. We know why we're with each other. But objectively speaking, again, let's not be as closed-minded as them. Objectively speaking, love is a very recent invention, and getting together with someone... Yeah, it was an invention. Like romantic love is a very recent modern invention, the last 100 years. People never got together because they loved someone. They were attracted, their hormones wanted them, they wanted to reproduce. But it was very organized, arranged marriages, you did the right thing. Your feelings didn't matter. Now your feelings matter a lot in society and a lot of stuff. So
yeah, but I think there's a difference. I think it wasn't that there wasn't love before, because there's always been love, I think. But I think it's just more that people back in the day, they couldn't make those decisions. And they had no choice because of survival. They had to get married or make certain decisions. But it's just now that we have more freedom to do what we want to do. We get married for love.
Do you really think that the way we think about romantic love today existed in the same way 200 years ago?
Well, maybe not in the same way, but I don't know this for sure, but I can't imagine that there weren't also people who loved other people or who fell in love with other people.
You really wanted somebody else. Yeah, when I look at history like Cleopatra and stuff, right back in the day where they were married to someone and then they had a secret affair over a long time with somebody else. They were obviously wanted a different person. So
yeah, the only difference is that they couldn't act on it before, and everything was more difficult, and they didn't have enough as much choice as we have now. And now it's exploded because we're all free and we can do what we want. So
Yeah, but that I've talked to you about that. I really believe that a lot of people today are so stupid that they probably do need to be religious. That would really help them to be less woke or redhead, purple-haired idiots, to have something to rein them in, to rein their values and ethics in, to make them behave a little bit better and respectful of other people.
yeah, we talked about this yesterday, but
Can I have my tea?
Oh.
Thanks, babe.
yeah, but I won't go off into a different topic again.
Yep,
So
okay.
that's
All right.
next one.
Yep.
Okay, you'll want kids later, or you'll regret having kids when you're older.
This is another closed-minded.
Yeah, but this one's tricky
Topic.
because there is truth to it for a lot of women. And that's why it's tricky. Because for me, obviously, that's never been true. And it won't ever be true, you know? But for a lot of women, we've seen that it is true. You know, that maybe later on they change their minds or... Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a tricky one. But it's annoying to hear when, for me, for example, because I know myself, and it kind of comes across like they think they know you better than you know yourself.
Right.
You know, like if you're very secure in yourself and you know that I don't want this thing ever, and then other people are like, yeah, but maybe in the future, you know, it can come across kind of insulting, like, do you know me better than I know myself or what, you know? Like, that's why I don't like that sentence.
Just quickly, any of these topics, like if you have a closed-minded, if you're here part of the stream, watching this stream live, and if you have a comment or you have an example of a closed-minded question or a pushy a thing that people push on you, let us know here in the comments if you're here live during the stream, and put 3 smiley faces before your comment or question, and we'll read it out as long as it's sensible. So, yeah, if you want to be part of this discussion, if you're here live. So, yeah, I think that's more of a woman thing. You're going to regret it. Or you're going to regret wanting kids later because you don't know. You might be independent and you want your freedom now, but later on, when you're invisible, your looks go, and you feel alone, all of a sudden you might regret not having kids and not having that whole traditional.
Yeah, I think for most people that's probably true. And that's because of feminism, that everyone now thinks, oh, I should focus on my career and everything. So this statement is actually probably true for most women, but that's because they go for their career instead, but they also maybe want kids, you know? But I'm more like the odd one out. Like, I just never wanted kids. Yeah.
Feminism in politics today, it does push women to be childless, to, you know, work and pay more taxes and stuff. I get why governments like doing that. They control women more, and they make more money out of taxes from them and stuff. So it definitely encourages women to go against their nature. But again, it's kind of like, you know, I can have you got to be sensible as well. Like, is this what you really want? There's McDonald's on every corner. Just because it's advertised doesn't mean I just go there and eat it all the time. And feminism is the same thing. Just because they keep pushing feminism onto women, it's like, you don't have to eat this. You don't have to listen to feminism. But I think it's just so enticing to women, the power and the freedom and independence. And yeah, F men, I don't need this. My career will be enough. I'll travel the world forever. So I think this whole "you'll be sorry later," these kind of women it doesn't register to them. They'll think, yeah, I won't want kids, like later. They're not honest with themselves, thinking, is there a little part of me that is kind of like, I always thought I'll have kids later. If you're the kind of woman thinks, yeah, I'm not against kids, and one day I think I will have kids, but just not now, then you really should find out if you want them or not. Because even being open to it, you might actually regret it later and hit a really good big psychological wall. But so I think with women, it's more important to really look inside and say, if you're open to kids later, don't think that you can just ignore it until the last minute, because it won't be there.
Yeah, that's for them to figure out, I guess. Luckily, I don't have that problem.
But yeah, I think that's more of more of a triggering statement for women than it is for men. I don't think there's as many men that like really want to have kids. They usually go along with the woman, and it's part of the whole package. They're open to it, but they never want that goal as much as women do. They don't have the instinct. We do want to sleep with women, but we don't have the instinct as much to want to have children as women do. Yeah, you'll regret not getting married when you're older.
Oh, we talked about that one there.
Ah.
You might not like children, but you'll like your own. Well, look, there's truth to this.
Yeah.
Like, you'll like your own kid better than other kids. But that still doesn't mean that now all of a sudden you want kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is the thing when people say, I think that is objectively true. I just see it so often, and I hear it from people that, yeah, they said, I was like you. I never wanted kids. But then when I had my child, I completely flipped. And there's too many examples objectively of people that have said that to me. And so I get it. I believe that it's true. But you should have at least been open to or wanted kids because your partner did, and then you were open to it. Because it's too big a decision to just say, well, I really don't want kids at all, but I'll listen to everyone else and have kids, and maybe I'll change personalities as soon as I have a kid. But what about if you're like one of these parents that don't, and they resent their kid, and they hate being a dad or a mother, and they break their family up, and like it's really, you shouldn't listen to people saying, well, you'll change if you have a kid. But I can only know if I have a kid.
Yeah, but also, what if you actually change a little bit for the better if you have a kid? That still doesn't mean that you now have to have a kid. Like at the end of the day, it is your choice.
Yeah. Like you will improve a little bit as a person or in a certain way. It's like, well, do I want to?
Yeah, because it could also be that initially you didn't want to, but then, okay, if you have a kid, now you have to deal with the situation. And of course, you're going to try to make the best of it. And then, maybe it might not be so bad, or you do improve your life in some way or whatever. But still, that's not a reason for you to have kids if you don't want to initially. Like, it's your choice.
Yeah. Again, I think the lesson is be responsible for your life now and know yourself enough to know the consequences going forward, right? But if you just kind of listen to what your family, friends, and society or your religion or group pushes on you and shames you into, at the end of the day, you're going to be responsible for the kids. They're not. You just see so many cliches where the mothers and the families like, oh, have children, get married, and they just like listen to the parents, and they haven't, and they're like, I hate my life. Well, why did you get married? Why did you have kids? It's like, you told me to. Well, you're an adult. You should think for yourself. So it's still your fault. So how about I don't listen to you? How about I listen to myself? That's the thing I really work hard to do. Listen to myself, and I'll be responsible for the consequences. Not the family, because your family, even your well-meaning parents, they're not going to be responsible at the end of the day. You're going to be stuck with the kid.
You know what I'm really noticing while we're having this discussion? I'm like, I can't be bothered. Remember in the Dinks video how triggered I got? And now I'm just like, so, okay, whatever. I don't know.
Well, also, the more you're triggered about any topic, sometimes it underlies you. You really have a conflict with it. If you really know how you sit with a position, you really aren't, you can let it go, But if it really bothers you, there's something there that you really need to look at. Like, why does it bother you so much? So that's probably a good sign. I think the Dinks video was the first time as well, and we did a reaction. So also, it's the first time you're talking about this.
Yeah.
But now we've talked about this a few times.
Yeah.
I've always been so neutral on kids. I've never hated kids. But when anyone pushes on me, like, have kids, or before you, like, get married, why don't you want to get married? They make you angry. And so just to punch back, it's like, well, all right, I hate kids. I hate marriage.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you want to keep punching me? Let me punch you back. So it's an act of self-defense. And I think with some of this, it's like, well, you want to be rude? I'll be rude back. I'll take the same position of you. I'll create an opposing point of view just to combat you and have some self-defense. So anyway.
Yeah, I've never had any pressure to have kids or anything, but my how do you say that? Me not wanting kids has actually grown as I've gotten older. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm a teacher. Yeah.
This is an interesting one. See if I can get this up. Yeah. Let's hang on. I have to make this the right size. Didn't prepare this before the stream. There we go. All right.
Oh, I'm cold. It's really cold in Australia. This winter is super cold.
All right. Silva says, I always wanted to be a good husband and good father because it is the kind of man I wanted to be. Yet I see how other people have other goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't understand. I think people take it, they take a personal stance on everything. And I understand it. It makes you feel alive. You're expressing who you are. This is me and I'm going to defend this. But sometimes, I don't have the need to defend why I love my family or you. Someone could say you don't love Stephanie. It's like, all right, whatever. I'm like, yes, I do. Yeah, like I have to defend and like get angry, and it's like.
Yeah, but that's why I just said I don't really feel triggered anymore because some of these statements, they seem so dumb to me now. Like, what's the point of getting married if you don't want kids? But also, like, your life is meaningless if you don't have kids. It sounds so stupid to me now. While in the other video, it really got to me for some reason.
Peg says, closed-minded, one example, a person with sociopathic tendencies. Would you agree with that? I don't know if David says, I've heard we should listen twice as much as we talk. That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Yeah, I've heard that philosophical thing.
Yeah, I think a sociopath is closed-minded by default because he's a sociopath. I don't think that's necessarily a choice, maybe. That's just because he's a sociopath. So
in the sense that a sociopath really lacks empathy, if you have empathy, you can actually look at the other side and try and see it from the other person's side. So in that sense, like, I get what...
Yeah, like he's probably closed-minded because he's a sociopath.
Yeah.
Not just because he's a person that is closed-minded.
That's an arsehole, yeah. Okay. All right.
Women usually get, where are my grandkids? Yeah, I've never gotten pressure. Because what's interesting? I have an older sister and a younger brother, and all of us don't want kids. But we've never gotten any pressure from our parents. Like, we know that they would like grandkids, but they've given up, But they've never pressured us or anything, and I think that's really good. The other shaming things about, say, kids, or it could be marriage or anything, right? Is when you're calmly, like, no, I've never wanted kids, and now you say, like, none of my family members, my siblings want kids either. They'll say, aha, childhood. What was it about your childhood that made you broken like this, that you don't want kids? And so they'll go into your childhood psychologically, to justify the bias that they think you really ought to get married and have kids. And I really dislike when someone doesn't listen to your very calm, neutral way of saying, I don't want this. Why are you angry? And when I hear, like I did on the recent podcast, where a philosopher, all of a sudden you're talking to kids, is getting angry at people who don't want kids. I'm saying, okay, you were logical before, you're a philosopher, you were logical. And now, when it's about something that's so important to you, like the love you have for your child and your family, you go off the deep end and you become like a raving lunatic because you're so passionate about it. All right, logically convince me why I should want it. Because shouldn't I want kids? Like, I'm just neutral. I don't hate kids. I've never hated marriage. I never thought I'd get married until I met you. But
with all these people that get angry at you, it's like, you're weird. It's in the same way they, like, ultra conservatives, they shame gay people. Like, I don't understand. Why don't you like a woman? Why don't you want to have children? Whatever it might be. I like to say to them, calm down the emotions. All right, logically, I don't want it. Convince me why I should. Shouldn't I want kids? To be a good father, I should want to be a father. And like, yes. So I don't. I feel nothing. Make me want it. Oh, well, you're broken. Your child, look, you're trying to shame me. Like, we can go and you can make up creative stories all you want in psychology. But like, I just don't accept that I am this way, right? So talk to me reasonably. I'm open. Like, try and convince me. I'm not resisting you. I don't hate kids. I don't hate, like, let's have a discussion where we can form a bridge and maybe you can see my point of view, and because I'm trying to see your point of view too. I'm trying to build a bridge towards you. No, you have to come to this side, otherwise you're going to hell. All right, then we can't talk.
Yeah.
Convince me. You want to be logical? Let's agree to disagree. So all they've got is shame, and that's what I don't like, the shaming.
Yeah.
Next.
You should get married is normal.
It's common for marriage has been very common for the human race for a very, very long time. So it is very accepted and it's been very, very normal.
Yeah, you could say that about marriage and having kids. But I think that's a very dangerous thing to just use as a blanket statement. Do this because it's normal. And then they don't take into consideration whether you even want it or whether you would even be a good parent or...
I think it's more true to say you should get married because it's an accepted norm. Not because it's normal as though you're a human being, you should have two eyes. You should get married because it's been societally normal or accepted. It's expected of you, say. As a human being, you're here because two people had kids, they got married, right? And it's expected of you as well to keep that going. So normal, expected of you, I get it. But if you go like, I don't want to, or I'm not sure, or not yet, you just get like, no, we're forcing you to do it.
Yeah, but expected from who?
Society.
Yeah, F that. My parents never expected us to have kids. I don't care about...
Did they ever deter you? Did they ever say it was stupid?
No.
I can't imagine because you've got a really nice family.
That would be weird because they have kids.
Yeah, but... And also your parents don't fight. They have a really nice relationship and stuff. So everything in your upbringing should have made you want to replicate your childhood. But none of your siblings wanting to then have kids, especially you.
Especially me, yeah. Probably me more so than my siblings.
Because your siblings, are they more open to it? But you're just like completely...
Well, I actually helped deter my sister a little bit, I feel, like, from having kids.
You're a religious person, are you? Like, in the other way? Like, you're forcing her to come to your side?
No, but not saying, like, you shouldn't have kids, but just, like, talking about the realities of the situation, you know? Because, I don't know, if someone's a little bit on the fence about having kids, then, yeah, there are things you need to think about. Like, financially, my sister really values, like, their free time as well and going out and doing fun things, and you can't really do that as much if you have kids. Like, there's so many things that you need to think of. Yeah.
I agree. I think things like kids and marriage, like those permanencies, especially kids, it should be a hell yes or it's a hell no. It's so, because it's also another life and there's so much responsibility. People are too blasé about it. So if you're kind of on the fence or you're not sure, like, yeah, maybe we'll see how it goes. It's like, no, I think to be a responsible adult, you have to be really 100% for it. You have to know in your bones that I want this. Without this, my life isn't worth getting up for. This is my goal in life. Like it's really important for me. It's not one day I'd like to go to France. That'd be nice. See what happens. Maybe we'll live there. Who knows? I don't know. If I never go, I don't care. You can't have that attitude with kids. You have to be like, I want to live with France. I don't want to be here. I've always wanted to live in France. But like you are single-minded and stubbornly that's you. And then you have to have the same attitude. And some people say, well, that's unrealistic. No one ever is 100. Well, it's too important. For me, it's too an important decision to do because it involves other people. Whether you get married, whether you have kids with them, whether you raise another human being. It's a very important thing. Anyway, let's keep going forward.
You've already talked about that one a bit, but...
Yeah, how they shame you into either getting married or having kids because you are here because of the sacrifices that your ancestors before you made.
Sorry, I was just reading comments. Yeah, that's just an example of a dumb comment, I think.
You're selfish if you don't want kids.
Yeah, I've never really understood that one. How can you be selfish for not wanting kids?
Because you don't want to give your time to something bigger than you. You're narcissistic.
No, but it's like if you had a kid and then you neglect the kid and you only go out partying, that's selfish. But if you don't have a kid, there's nothing there. So you can't be selfish because there's not someone there.
But there's some people that they benefit from having kids, like they were really selfish and then they soften up. They do. So I get that. But again, the bottom line is you have to want to pull that trigger and have kids. So how do you know if you're going to be less selfish if you have kids? Or if they say you're selfish if you don't have kids. What if you have kids because everyone's forcing you, you're still selfish, you have kids, and then you really regret that you can't be as selfish as you were before kids?
Yeah, but I feel like they mean it in a different way. But I feel like this statement is like a fallacy or something. Because you can't be selfish if you don't even have the thing.
Yeah. If I don't grab something, I don't have it. How am I selfish? You're the one that takes something. Like if I don't take the donut, how am I selfish? Because I don't want it. I think they expect you as a human being to contribute with kids, and you're not doing your job. You're just lazy. So I think semantically it's not really accurate. You're not selfish. They should say you're selfish if you don't. You're lazy if you don't have kids. Societally, you need to contribute kids. You're using all your time and energy for nothing. You're throwing it away. You're selfish with your time and energy and money.
You know what it is though? If you do want kids, but then you decide not to have kids because you value your own time and money more, then I could see how this would make sense. But it doesn't hold up if you don't want kids. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Oh, that's the worst one. Your life is meaningless if you don't want kids. If you don't have kids. But now I'm just looking at this and I'm just like, yeah, okay.
Well, all of these narrow-minded, closed-minded comments are people arrogantly assuming they know you better than you know yourself, and they're wiser than you, and they just met you, and they're giving you wisdom. Like they know you for 5 seconds, and like I get it on my other channel. They see the title, they don't even read the video, and then they assess me like an expert psychologist, and they know everything about me. Like, I know you better than you know yourself. Your life will be meaningless if you don't have kids.
Yeah, but I feel like this isn't even like personal. This is more like a general statement that like people who don't have kids, their lives are just meaningless because having kids is the only thing that can give your life meaning.
You know what most of these narrow-minded, closed-minded comments are? Is projecting. Your life is meaningless without kids.
Yes.
All of it. You should get married. It's normal. No, you should get married because for you it's normal. You're selfish if you don't want kids. No, you feel
if you didn't have kids, you would be selfish.
Yeah. Your life is meaningless without kids. Not my like my life is always great and like I'm not being delusional. You might think so, you're entitled to your opinion. But my life has a lot of meaning in it. We barely have time to figure things out, like not figure things out, to do things. We've got so many things we do in our lives and projects and things we do day to day, week to week. We have a very, very full and meaningful life. So all of this is closed-minded people. It's almost like all of it is projecting. Rude, closed-minded people is projection. And some of it is positive, like, my life is so great with my kids. You don't understand. You need to have kids. It's like, your life is great. Stop saying that I need to have what you... I'm not into cameras, and I'll go, I don't go around telling everyone, oh, man, you need to get into photography. You need to buy this camera. No, that's cool, man. Like, no, don't be an idiot. Get a camera. You don't realize how great it is to do a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Anyway. Many assume not wanting kids is selfish because they think not having children equals you get to stay a child like a lost boy, but there is a cope to justify their decision. But that is a cope to justify their... Yeah, they say you stay a child, you grow up, get married, have children, then you're an adult. But until you do that, they look at you like a child. Oh, you're just a child. You're a grown child.
Yeah, I think that's stupid. Some of these statements are just like...
Well, all you need to say is, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously it's not true that you get to stay a child. Like, I don't have kids. I never wanted kids, and I'm an adult. I've made, like, smart decisions in my life.
So they were an example of shaming and degrading comments that closed-minded people will say, like, you should get married, it's normal. You should have kids because your ancestors had kids and that's why you're here. You know, it's disrespectful in some way. You're selfish if you don't want kids. Your life is meaningless if you don't have kids. Let's go on to the really dumb statements. Dumb, closed-minded statements. You can go on for this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so cold. Aren't you cold?
Is your drink
I'm
warm?
Freezing.
If I was a gentleman, I'd give you my jacket. Are you that cold, babe?
I just want to grab my a thing.
Go.
It's cold.
All right. Okay. Yeah, look. The first one here is a ridiculous one where people say, well, your next baby could be the next Einstein. This is an example of like really dumb shaming. Like, well, you're stopping yourself from having a fantastic life. Your kid could be someone amazing that would contribute to society and things like that. But yeah, all of this is projection and shaming. I would like it if people, whatever their position, they could just rationally have a conversation with me and saying, this is why I think it's good. And I can tell you why I say, well, that's great, but here is why I think my life is good. When people are trying to shame you into their life, that's when I have a problem. And if they're rude into shaming me into their life, basically saying, have my values, and you're a bad person if you don't have my values. And I know it's a tribal thing. You feel safer if someone else has the same values as you. But just as a civilized, respectful society, that if I have a different point of view to you, I can still get along with you and talk politely to you and not shame you into my point of view. And I don't like that, whether it's religion or parents or whoever, that if you're having a reasonable and fair conversation with them, that they can't be reasonable and fair with you. I like that jacket, babe.
Yeah, this will keep me warm.
I was just sort of gave this example about they're saying, well, you should have a child because your next baby could be the next Einstein.
Oh, yeah. Or Elon Musk, right?
Yeah, it could be. Or your next kid could also be the next Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
Or Ted Bundy. These extreme, like it's again shaming with extreme examples.
Yeah, I feel like this is the equivalent of when like a bimbo comes up with like this exception that's like so the chance of it happening is so small.
Yeah, like mic drop. Let me give you a ridiculous example why I should shame you into doing what I want you to do.
Yeah.
You can read that one out. Another dumb shaming or narrow-minded view of why you should say have kids.
Who will take care of you when you're old? I think that is a horrible reason to have kids.
Yep.
Because it's not fun for kids to take care of their parents later.
Well, look, I understand that it's nice because you took care of your kids when you were growing up, but expecting like you have kids because of a quid pro quo, like I took care of you, now it's your duty to take care of me. I'm going to shame you into taking care of me when I'm older.
Yeah, I think that's horrible.
There's just too many examples where kids, when they move out of home, they move away. There's not that many that move close. People, you moved across the other side of the world. How are you supposed to take care of your parents? You know, none of your siblings live close to your parents. Both your other siblings live in Holland. Your parents are in Spain. You're in Australia. And a lot of people that I know, they've moved states. They're not close to their parents if they need them.
Yeah, but I also think that's not something that you should expect from your children. That's not a reason that you should have children because you want them to take care of you later on. Because it's not fun for the kids.
That to me that's really selfish. You want to talk about being
Yeah.
I'm so selfless. I had kids, but you're going to take care of me when I'm older, aren't you?
Yeah, but it's because because of course if the kids have to, then they're going to do it out of love. Like, of course, you know. But the truth is they would rather not because it's going to like impact their lives. They can't have, they can't live their life the way they were going to. And, like that's just the truth, I feel like. So I feel like that's a really horrible reason to have kids.
I've mentioned this on my stream once, but I had an ex who also didn't want children, but I wasn't convinced. I was dating her for a while. And then her father, who was much older, he got sick and she had an epiphany and she was like, I might be, I just realized how important children are. So like what's going to happen when I get old like that? Like who's going to take care of me? And I'm like, oh, really? Now you want to have kids because you want caregivers? It's like, I don't want kids, but I know that's a terrible reason to all of a sudden flip and want kids. Like I was immediately like, I took 2 steps back from her. I thought I saw her in one way and they're like, it created a distance between us automatically because like, this isn't a really good moral person.
No. It's also kind of dark.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine like if I had kids, like I wouldn't even want them to put them in that situation. That I'm old and now I have to infringe on their lives and they have to take care of me while I know that they would rather be living their own life and doing other things. Like it's not a nice thing.
Well, a lot of people, they think they're noble and they're giving and they're selfless, but they're not. Like you could go out, you could have friends and your friends love having barbecues, right? And your friends always like having barbecues and inviting people over. And they start getting annoyed at you. It's like, why doesn't Stephanie and Bobby have barbecues and invite us over? It's like, well, is that why you had barbecues? Because you expect everyone to have your life and give you back? Is this payment? Like you only gave to get it back? Like I never promised something that now I'm like, I'm going back on my promise. And I feel like there's a lot of parents that's like, I'm selfless. Look at everything I gave. Yes, you want your kids to sort of be respectful and stuff. But now afterwards, like, well, I don't care what your lives are like now, children, when you're adults. You now have to live for us as a command. There's being polite and respectful. I get it. You wouldn't want to just throw away your parents. You want to be respectful of everything they gave you and stuff. But now kind of like they blackmail you. When it's blackmail, it's like, hey, I didn't realize you had me for blackmail.
Yeah. Okay, next one.
Next stupid closed-minded comments.
But you can do all the things you like. Traveling, enjoying life, living nomadically, socializing with adults while being a parent.
No, you can't.
No. You can do some of the things to a small degree still, but it's going to be a big change, obviously, when you have kids. So, yeah. That's mostly not true, I feel like.
I find people who just very naively think that you change your life in such a meaningful and big way that you still retain everything in the exact same way you had before. Your lifestyle doesn't change. Kids just make it better. It might, but you also have to, the time and energy and resources required for kids, you have to realistically say, well, all this other stuff that we might have liked, we have got to either stop it or minimize, like cut it off. That goes, we reduce it by 90% now because the child is the most important thing. I feel like you have to be responsible. And there's so many people. I talked about an ex of mine where I knew that she wanted a dog. It was like, don't get a dog. You don't have the lifestyle. You work night shifts. You work 2 days sometimes in a row. It's fine. It's like, and she had a dog and she had all the problems that I thought she'd have. And she was pissed off at the dog. It's like, don't get pissed off at the dog for barking and pissing everywhere. You're never home. It's traumatized.
Yeah.
Oh, can you take care of it? It's not my dog. And she gets offended. Oh, why don't my parents and friends, like, I thought they were a friend. It's like, it's your dog. Like, don't expect all the, like, oh, you just thought things are going to fall into place. And I remember she said once, I told her about, like, it's unfair to, you just want the dog, but you have to be responsible for it. It's like, it'll learn. It's like, so you don't care. It's not a good reason to get, you have to be fair to it. You can't expect to blackmail. You can't blackmail the dog to be a nice dog because you just want it.
You're making me want a dog.
That argument made you want a dog.
I just kept thinking of Bella. My parents have a
We'll get a dog one day. I've always wanted a dog, but that was just an example. My ex didn't have a life to accommodate a dog. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. You know what I was also just thinking? Can you imagine, like, how different our life would be if we had kids? Like now, if we just had kids now, Because it's like we already work part-time, both of us. But like in our off time, we're always like, oh, we don't have enough time for all of our projects and things. Can you imagine if we also had kids?
They would call us selfish. Again, they would call us like living in Peter Pan world. We're children. We need to grow up.
Okay. Next.
Yep, I know.
It doesn't bother me anymore. I don't know. I'm just super chill today.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Maybe it's your temperament today as well. But again, I think it depends on who's talking to you. If someone attacks you with this and is shaming you into it, then you'll get your guard up and you'll be more triggered by it. But I think if we're just relaxed and talking about it like this.
I think it's also a decision. Like getting triggered, sometimes I feel like you can decide whether you want to get triggered right now or not. Maybe
now
sometimes I'm just like...
You're being very stoic now, babe. It's very...
It's because I have a male brain, remember? That's why.
That was Boffin that said that.
Yeah, that's like the biggest compliment.
It's not the situation, it's how you react to it. All right, any final comments? Let's get any final comments and questions from the 6 people that are here. The crowd of 6 people that are here during the stream. Before we end the stream, we've been going and blabbing for an hour and 22 minutes at the moment. So what are some examples of closed-minded comments or closed-minded people for you guys? Because we already had one. Go into the posts of our channel, and I posted a question. What's an example of closed-mindedness that bugs you? And we already had David saying when someone says you're not open-minded, even though they're being closed-minded, they're trying to, again, project it back onto you. So a lot of this is projection, I think.
Yeah.
Sil says, this gets into the controlling or devouring parent. Yes. Some parents hobble their children so they won't be lonely. Yeah. Parents gaslight and shame and blackmail their kids because they don't want to face that they're lonely and they can't be alone. And what are they going to do? The future is scary for them.
Oh, I've seen that sometimes with a few colleagues. Like they're hurrying home because they've got to go to their parents or something.
Siege, howdy, human. One of my favorite conversations you had was with TFM. I'm happy for you and your woman, Stephanie. Thank you. Yeah, that was a nice conversation. I've only had one recorded chat with TFM. He's a good guy. I like him. Very, very smart. He jokes around a lot. He has a lot of fun with his content. I haven't watched him in a while. But if you talk to him one-on-one, he's a very deep and thoughtful guy. Yeah, I like him. Pretty much everyone I've decided to have a conversation with has been either good or really great. And I think the trick is to get people one-on-one, and then you're able to kind of see how they think and who they really are. But the more they get into groups, whether it's online groups, religions, whatever, you just become closed-minded because you have to adopt the group's position. You have to adopt whatever the 10 commandments of that group or religion or sect is. You can't have your own thoughts.
Oh, I have a good example. Like when I was vegan. That's a good example.
How long ago were you vegan? Now I've just lost all respect for you.
That was, I think I was like 29 or something. And and I was vegan for 3.5 years. And yeah, I was like in the vegan box. So I was very close-minded then. And now that I'm not vegan anymore, for many years.
How long have you been clean? About like 7 years?
Yeah, 6-7 years. I've been eating everything again. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's an example. The more you're in a group, and there's so many answers in that group, whether it's a religion or point of view, or, you know, I know with my friends from school, they got married and had kids, and now all their friends, their close friends, are other people with kids, and they go to parties, and they're just like, their groups mix, like they're kind of together, and they find me odd.
Yeah, but I think that's what we need to factor in when we try to answer the question, why are people so close-minded sometimes? But you can't just get annoyed with people. You also have to factor in that people do see themselves as a part of a group, or they have certain beliefs that they've always had. You have to consider that as well. And it's just like, that has an effect on people's beliefs.
Yeah.
Oh, Luke is here.
Who? Oh, Marengo. Hey guys, managed to make it. Hello to all. You're too selfish, yeah. Also, these are the related videos we've done so far about reacting to people asking you, like, you know, again, who should pay on a date. Women do this. They expect you, like, they blackmail and shame you into doing what they want. This is inappropriate. You guys have too much of an age gap, or this is inappropriate. You should have kids. It's not appropriate that you don't have kids. You should get married. Dinks or whatever. So have a look at those videos that we've done. And also I did a video on my channel I uploaded yesterday, a tribute to Spetsnaz. He passed away, a guy I knew. So have a look at that video. So anything else? Leave your final comments. We'll wrap it up very soon. Have you got anything else to say on this topic of closed-minded people?
I don't know. Well, I guess we could go through the reasons why we don't want kids, but I don't know.
Well, we just don't. And everyone can say, you'll be sorry. And I can, whatever they ask us, like everything we went through, you'll want kids because of blah, blah, blah. You'll be sorry later because of blah, blah, blah. I can say, no, I won't because of this. I've never changed my position in over 50 years of being alive. What makes you think in the next however many decades that I'm going to change my position? Don't you think by now I'm responsible enough to know who I am, and I have not shifted in this position at all? It's not like I was open to kids, but you know, it's too dangerous with women out there in the laws. It's not that. It's just absolutely not. I may as well be a gay guy not wanting to be with women. That's how I feel about kids. I'm neutral. Neutral. Don't care. Don't hate kids. Don't want kids. I'm just here.
Yeah. Yeah, but our reasons would also make sense to everyone, I feel like. So
I think that would make sense to a reasonable person that's not emotionally triggered because they're biased. And they're trying to shame us, not with logic. They're shaming you with semantics to make you submit. They're like arm wrestling you to, but don't you agree that kids are great? Don't you agree that you'll regret it later? Like they're arm wrestling you. You're like, well, maybe. Oh, yeah, can like more, you know.
I'm so happy, though, that I don't have any of that shaming, like, actually in my life. It just sounds exhausting.
All right. All right, I think we're done. No real questions. I think everyone was just happy to hear us blab, and I don't think there's any more posts in our comments section on our YouTube page. So I think we can wrap it up. Mm-hmm. Do you want to keep going? There's nothing more to say. Let's get out of here. Anyone else? No, we don't have.
What day is it? Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Yeah, we can have breakfast. Or lunch, rather.
Yeah. We either have breakfast, skip lunch and have dinner, or we have lunch, skip breakfast.
I like having late breakfast, or like as late as possible, the first meal. That's good.
I'd rather not, because what happens is I have a nice lunch and then I don't feel hungry for dinner, and then that's disappointing because I love the evenings.
But that depends on how big your lunch is.
Yeah, but if we're going to have an enjoyable lunch, I don't want to just have like a piece of toast or something small.
Sometimes you do.
Anyway. Blab.
Check.
All right, guys. Have a good weekend. Check out our videos. Throw a like. Comment under this video in the comment section under the question, what's an example of closed-mindedness that bugs you, that you've had shamed, things like that, and how people won't listen, who are otherwise intelligent. That's where my problem comes from. And we'll catch you on the next stream. We'll make these regular every week. So they'll probably be Friday or Saturday.
And next week we have a special one.
Yeah, next week will be pretty much 2 years of us living together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I arrived here on the 28th of July 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So that would be good.
You hate it yet?
No. No.
All right. Have a good weekend, guys. And thanks for watching. And I encourage you to watch these videos as well. And because we talked about a lot of people's expectations and the rules and how we don't like how, the rules go against what our morals and ethics are. And I think everyone should really know as an individual and especially as a couple by communicating all the time what your standards and values and morals are. Don't not talk. Even as an individual, I think, don't not talk to yourself and know where you stand on subjects and topics, but also more importantly, when you're with someone, where you have a partner, is really verbalize and make sure you're on the same page. So you know where you stand on kids and marriage, and when there's this, you always have each other's back because you naturally do believe in the same things. So I think it's important. All right. Have a good weekend, and I think we're out of here. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Bye everyone.